Anna, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Jack. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no probs. Anna, for people who don't know who you are, could you give us a bit of an introduction, please?
Yeah, sure. My name is Anna Strebl, and I'm the CEO of Confirmo. So I've now fully dedicated to building digital payments rails, and but I haven't been in crypto for that long. I started my career outside of crypto. I was working for the British government I was working on foreign affairs and international business. But now, for the past 4 years, fully in crypto.
Nice. That's quite the switch.
Yeah.
Nice. Why crypto? Out of interest. Why the switch?
So honestly, I didn't want to go specifically into crypto. I was working for the British Ministry of International Trade, and I wanted to go to some small startup. So it's rather that I saw huge potential in this industry and and specifically in Confirmo. So I joined when the product was quite early.
Nice. Nice. Could you give us a bit of an intro into Confirmo and what you guys are building?
Yeah, sure. So Confirmo is a B2B stablecoin first payments platform. So you can think about it like PayPal, but for crypto, mostly stablecoins. So we've been operating for over a decade. And we started only with Bitcoin. So for the first 7 years, we had only Bitcoin and Litecoin payment rails. So we've really seen it all when it comes to crypto payments. And after look, we were adding more cryptocurrencies, and in the past year, we see that stablecoins are where we really see the biggest potential now with crypto payments.
For sure. Obviously, that word stablecoins has been cropping up a lot and more and more and more, really over the last few months and way before then. For people listening, could you give us a crash course on this magical thing of a stable coin? Like, what is it? Can you talk us through it?
Yeah, so maybe a bit of more context on stablecoins. So initially, it was supposed to be Bitcoin with the promise of being the new digital money. And that's also why Confirmo had only Bitcoin for many years. But we saw that while there was real demand for some alternative to legacy payments that were really slow and they're just dependent on banking holidays and signatures, uh, we needed some quick cross border payments fast, but Bitcoin, there was always the issue with volatility for the merchants. Also, there were high network fees. It was relatively slow, the transactions. So we were experimenting with different technologies. So there was, for a long time, a promise of Bitcoin Lightning, which is the off-chain alternative of Bitcoin. So we thought that might be the technology because Bitcoin Lightning really solves the speed issue. It's extremely fast and it's almost free. So that seemed very promising. But then the volatility remained, but mostly it was an issue of adoption for the end customer. So we just saw that people are not using it. So we added 4 years ago stablecoins, and we saw not only a surge of interest from the customers, but also we could target new verticals because for financial services, stablecoins were exactly what they needed. So stablecoins are, in fact, they're programmable money, so they connect all the good things about crypto, which is they're open, they're borderless, they're fast, but they are not, not affected by the volatility. So they're directly tied to the fiat currencies. So they would be most commonly pegged to dollar, one to one. And it seems like that's finally the real money for the digital age.
Nice. And why are stablecoins important?
They're important because there's just like so many perspectives from which you can look at stablecoins, but um, right now the whole payment system is very obsolete. So the current payment system is not set for the digital age where we are right now, and The credit card fees are very high. So, for example, in Europe, this whole market is regulated. So the credit card fees wouldn't be that high. But especially in the US, credit card fees would be on average 2%, 3%. And if you look at, so one lens, how you can look at it is big companies like, let's say, Walmart. If you have, I don't know, if you have revenue of, I don't know, most maybe 700 million billion dollars, and then you have 15 billion profit, and you pay 2% on credit card fees. So that's like $6 billion you pay on credit card fees. So suddenly your profit can increase by, I don't know, like 40% just if you switch to different payment rails. So that's one very simple lens how you can look at it. Then another one is, if for at least for this big companies, credit card, they offer a lot of extra services, so chargebacks and fraud protection, that is useful. So at least they can use some of those extra services. But then if you look at, for example, so small coffee shop, where they would pay these 2% from every single transaction, but basically the transaction is just somebody hands you a coffee over the counter and you just pay them, and there's no reason why the merchant should they would be 2% deduced from the price because they are not using any of the extra services on the credit card. So there's big potential of usage for both small and big companies. But I think what is also underappreciated is now how the US government started looking at stablecoins, and they started using stablecoins as an export for US dollar. And I'm still surprised how much under radar this is. So obviously in my bubble, everybody knows about it, but I would say general public, even educated one, is still not paying that much attention to it.
Nice. Where can someone go to like find out what's happening in the stablecoin world? Is there like a particular place that you go to get your news from? Is it just from like digging around, just from like friends of friends? Hey, like look at this, and you kind of send each other stuff. Like where'd you go?
So, in my world, it's kind of everywhere, right? So I don't even have a specific places where I go for
Okay.
this news. I have some standard, you're looking at some standard crypto news channels. But for example, for us, it's very crucial to be watching the US administration. So that's just something what you see is like, the US Treasury Secretary would be openly saying that they want to use stablecoins to push US dollar to remain the main currency, to main reserve currency. And you see, for example, that now stablecoin issuers are major buyer of US debt. So I think right now it's, if stablecoin issuers were a country, they would be the 14th largest owner of US debt. So it's a huge number, and it's rising drastically every year. So the US government right now, they have direct incentive to support stablecoins, and they're very open about it. So whenever single stablecoin is issued backed by dollar, there's more demand for buying the US debt. And at the same time, it supports the dollarization of the world economy. So it's even in the EU, they're talking about being afraid of the dollarization in the EU through stablecoins.
Wow. Okay. Nice. So it's definitely an area that people need to pay attention to because it's going to be changing all of our lives a lot by the sound of it over the next few years. Obviously, I guess a big part of your role at Confirmo is to try and like bring Web2 companies into the world of all things stablecoins and crypto, right? Like you create those payment rails, you then bring companies in to start like accepting those as or like implementing those payment rails into those businesses. How do you get Web2 companies interested in the idea of stables? That sounds like quite a difficult task.
So when I started and we had only Bitcoin and Litecoin, I think there was a bit of a loss of proper product market fit for the crypto payments industry. So it was difficult because I was just approaching a bit random companies and trying to convince them that payments with Bitcoin will make their lives easier. But it was not great time for the business from the perspective of the customers who were paying. They have a very specific reason why they were paying, and it was not always because we would be solving some problem. So it would be either because they were some hardcore bitcoiners and they just for their own just didn't believe in fiat currencies, so they just didn't want to exchange it. So that's why they needed a way how to pay with it, which is a legit use case, but it's not a use case you can build a huge business on.
Yeah. Not
And
scalable, typically.
exactly, it's not very scalable. So there were many clear use cases for this. So it was only when stablecoins came when we could properly target financial services. So, for example, so that would be prop trading firms and forex brokers. And for those businesses, that was a huge problem solver suddenly, because those are online platforms who have traders all over the world who just need to quickly send money to their own account, and they need to be quickly paid out. And then suddenly stablecoins for that become great option. And it's to be fair, it's not only stablecoins that are used in these platforms. So we offer all the other major cryptocurrencies, but stablecoins are their dominance is increasing every year. So we see that this is where the market is heading. So suddenly with stablecoins, we were solving real issues. So now it's much easier to come to companies and tell them, look, your transactions will be instant. They will be much cheaper. So now it is whenever you have an online business. So basically, our ICP is like ideal customer profile is a company who has a product which is money and who transacts online. So it's very simple. But whenever you transact online and your business is money, then stablecoins are solving a lot of problems.
Mm. And I suppose over time as well, like with the increase in regulation, with the US government obviously talking about that and trying to like really push stablecoins, that then makes your life a little bit easier, I can imagine. You don't have to push so hard to convince companies to do it. The US government are doing that for you, hopefully.
Yeah. No, it definitely made our life much easier. Although I have to say, the regulation is that's such an incredible role that you have to live in as a crypto company, because we're a European-based company, so we're applying for the pan-European crypto regulations called MiCA.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, we're like, our biggest market right now is Middle East, so we're applying for regulation there, for license there, and US is our biggest target right now, because this is where there's huge potential. And yes, the US government is now supportive of the whole crypto industry and specifically stablecoins so much. Nevertheless, the regulation and the time we have to spend on it is still immense. So this is something I didn't expect for to be in a startup and to be spending so much time and resources on talking to regulators and making sure that you're always compliant.
I can imagine that is, yeah, I can imagine that's a lot of work to stay ahead of the regulation, or at least trying to stay up to date with what's going on. I was going to ask you actually about maybe about what are some of your biggest learns, or like maybe some of the challenges you necessarily didn't expect when you started, or maybe some of your key learns from the last few years of like really trying to drive the adoption of stablecoins. Regulation sounds like a huge one so far, but are there any others that have really like stood out to you throughout that time?
Yeah, so yeah, regulation is a big one. And then I wonder. Uh, I think we're just like any other startup. We struggle with the same things. So we struggle with everything from hiring people to scaling, and the platform maybe not catching up sometimes as quickly as we hope, because we had a lot of growth that we experienced in the past years. So I would say that the challenges with stablecoins are not different. like in stablecoin business, not different probably than with any other startup. If anything, I would say that it's a great industry to be because it's an extremely growing industry. So, for example, that would mean that, I don't know, 2 years ago, the monthly business to business volume in stablecoins would be like $100 million, and now it's like billions of dollars. So it's growing so much, but it's relatively under the radar. Whereas things like AI, there's huge hype. So being in this business, I think, is really great. Um, yeah.
Nice. And then, obviously, coming from working with the UK government or in the UK government to then coming across to working for a startup in crypto, I can imagine the difference is huge. Is there anything from like a personal level from you? Let's say if someone is coming into the crypto space from a more traditional place of work, anything that you think people need to really be aware of before they make that jump that's really stood out to you?
I think you really need to want this because that's an entirely different world. So if you're somewhat happy in like a standard, maybe yeah, even government, then switching is probably not a good idea because that's entire like everything is really different. Um, but what I would say is that there's much more, you just get much more pleasure from doing this job because you're always accountable for what you do. Also, when I was working for the government, well, it was great, and especially the UK government is I think it's probably one of the best governments to work for, to be honest. It's very much, things are slow. You're constrained all the time, so even though you do business, it's not, it's not real business that you're doing. It's a lot of moving papers around. So going to an actual business and building something is probably a lot more stress, a lot less predictable, a lot more risk. But if this is what drives you, then it's definitely the right place where to go.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, yeah, I suppose as a yeah, coming from that more traditional place of work into super cutting edge startup and stuff like yeah, that's going to be fairly different uh, places to be. Are there anything just going back to stablecoins for a second? Is there um, anything you think people really overlook when it comes to working with stables that you think like super important?
I think it's certainly, as I already mentioned it, so that's the potential that the whole industry has right now, and how quickly I think the payment system will change. But I think at the end of the day, the end customer shouldn't, they don't need to worry so much, or they shouldn't probably know about it so much, because I think the purpose, or like the goal of all payments companies should be making things as simple as possible for the end customer. So I think we all know that Apple Pay is genius because you don't even know you're paying, you're just clicking and everything just happens. So this is how payment rails should work. So ideally in the near future, you will not know what runs on the underlying rails, how the payment happens. So whether it happens on fiat rails or whether it happens in stable coins, the end customer shouldn't care. They shouldn't be affected at all. So the only effect it should on the end customer is that things should be cheaper. If you're sending money outside your own country, and so you're sending some cross-border payment, it should be as automatic as if you're sending an email. You shouldn't worry that it's more complicated. So things should just become much easier and much more intuitive in the digital age. So that's for the end customer. But when it comes to the merchants, they should see the difference in how, because right now they're interacting with so many players when it comes to the payment rails. It's very expensive, as I mentioned. It's very slow. If you would have, for example, if you're an online business, I was before mentioning just kind of accepting money from your customers. But what is now very common is that you're in an online business and you have many contractors all over the world. So stable coins and crypto in general is becoming extremely popular to pay out those contractors because it's very obvious sending a cross-border payment to one person in Mexico and one to Thailand. And if you have these contractors all over the world, then as a company, your life is very difficult. For the contractor himself, it's usually difficult. So the stablecoin rails became now very popular for these businesses, so as a payroll as well.
Yeah, I've
And
seen
then
that.
yeah, and maybe just wanted to add actually the use cases, there's so many of them. So, and then even for companies, so this intra-company transfers. So if you're a company that has one branch in Europe, one branch in America, one branch in Asia, and you need to be shifting big sums of money between your own entities, then you're facing again the same problems, like the same cross-border payment problems. So using stablecoins just to transfer these your own company money as a treasury basically is again a big use case for stablecoins right now.
Yeah, I suppose then you're not just wasting money on transfer fees, right? To send money to yourself that's already yours.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. And it should be
yeah,
so, it just so obvious to me, but we're living in a world where we're just used to paying so much for simple transfers.
yeah, no, it makes sense. That makes sense. Um, so say if someone is super interested in stables or even just crypto in general, I guess, and they want to come and join the industry, they want to work for a tech project such as yours, such as Confirmo. How can someone get into the industry? Like, how do you get your first job working in this space? Do you have any advice or tips there?
Uh, I think it's really easy because now there's so many companies who are hiring, like Confirmo is hiring so much. So just look at the company that does something that resonates with you because you just need to be really, you just have to love the mission or it totally has to make sense to you. I don't think it's good to look for a job just in stablecoins in general because, as in any other industries, there are many companies that do things that are maybe using a little bit of the hype that there is around stablecoins. So I would really choose the companies that have a product that is solid and ideally that already has some traction, that has customers. Um, so yeah, just find a project that makes sense to you, and then I think what's great about crypto is that practically anyone can learn it. It's because there's so many aspects of the industry that goes beyond the technical side. It's now solving a lot of issues. There's now kind of the geopolitical context that's really interesting. So I think anyone can learn it so that they can do the job very well. And we see it now so much. People who are applying for jobs, they're coming from big institutions, from banks. So it's very even often people who go from financial services, though they see that the industry is not working. So they want to get into the technology that is now solving a lot of the issues that the traditional financial world has.
And with your role at Confirmo, did you see the CEO role like advertised online and you just applied for it and you spoke to the right people back then? Did you get kind of headhunted into that role? Are you able to kind of share, if you remember, like how you
Yeah,
found it?
no. So I when I joined, it was literally just me and the founder. We had some external developers, but it was only me and him kind of fully working on Confirmo because it was a side product of a crypto exchange. So it wasn't even sole company. So I just joined it as a project that was not profitable. That was very small. So it's just so together with the founder we were working very hard. My job was to get just get volume, basically get customers. So I joined more as a business development person, and in I think I think it was after a year or so when they offered for me to transition to the CEO role, because the founder, if you're in a crypto for a while, you get really tired because it's a lot of ups and downs, and you're always fighting banking partners and like a, kind of the standard world. So he, needed a well-deserved kind of break. So we agreed that I'll be the CEO.
Nice. And this might be quite a hard question to answer. Can you give us a bit of a crash course on being a CEO? I'm sure a lot of people look at your role, right, and that would be their career aspiration. They would love to be a CEO one day, but then maybe from the outside looking in, it has quite a glamorous connotations to it, right? You're CEO of a cool emerging tech startup or whatever the business might be. But um, what's it really like as a CEO? What do you need to do? Is there a bit of a crash course you could give us?
Mhm. Honestly, I never thought I could be CEO. I was so surprised when they came with this proposition, the founder and the investor, because I never saw myself. I just like this. I saw myself more as a business person, but in my head, CEO was someone. Uh, for example, I felt like I lack a lot of technical knowledge. Maybe I lack some financial background. So I just literally thought a CEO must be someone who has a much broader, in-depth knowledge in many more areas than I have. So I didn't feel confident to take the position, but I took it, and I see after that I took it, and honestly I didn't know what to expect from it. And then I saw that CEO can mean so many things. Like there are so many different types of CEOs. So there are technical CEOs. I'm definitely like a kind of business oriented CEO. So I would just say maybe not to assign to the role more meaning, or like overly think that it has to be someone so senior, because it's basically you're a manager. You just have to be a really great generalist. I think you have to learn very fast. But what I also see is I think one of the most important things is you have to be extremely resilient, because there's so many issues you're dealing with every day. And I see that it's not about, because I'm not the smartest person in the company, and so I don't think it's about that. I think it's just not being afraid and kind of being like not look at all the issues that you're juggling all the time, because not being overwhelmed, just kind of as a bulldozer, kind of only going forward all the time, not worrying that things are not perfect, that you like sometimes don't really understand even the things that you have to decide on. So you have to learn to trust your gut much more. No, but I think it's an amazing thing. It doesn't have to be a CEO position, but it could be like any type of senior position that I would encourage people to take, because I think you surprise yourself. You can do actually much better than you think, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, I tend to agree. And I guess as part of that, you have to, if you're in a senior position, you have to be able to bring in people around you that you really trust, right? Who, if you don't know the answer to absolutely everything, which you definitely you're not going to, you're only one person at the end of the day. You can't know the answer to absolutely everything. You then have to hire the right people into those positions to help you with that. Do you have any advice for people there? Like, if you are trying to build a solid team around you, how do you even find the right talent? How do you even know who you need and who you don't?
Yeah. So yeah, I've made so many mistakes in this regard. So now we have really an amazing team of like 50 people, and we're hiring many more. Um, but I think first what you have to make your peace with is that you just have to quickly change the people who are not working, because you will just not know. So you will not find the perfect people. So um, what I learned was, first, I was initially paying way too much attention to the CV. So I was sometimes overlooking some personal traits, even, or maybe some gut feeling about the person because they had a great CV. And then I found out that it almost never worked. for one or reason or other. And then, but on the other hand, when I had a great feeling about someone, but he didn't have the right experience, it usually was the right hire, because people just can learn so much very quickly if they want to. So I learned that, and then it's it's such a well-known thing, but firing quickly as well is something that I think you'll learn afterwards as well. Because if you have a feeling that it's not working, it's not fair for the other person either, because usually the other person knows. So maybe you think, they don't know that I'm not happy with them. Well, they know, they always know. So you're just prolonging some toxic situation for both parties. So being decisive about changing the team, I think, is good for everybody. It's good for the individual person, it's good for the team. And I wonder if there's something else. So yeah, I think those would be the main things.
Yeah. I think you're right, especially on letting people go earlier rather than kind of hanging on to people, because as a leader, you want them to find an environment where they really thrive, right? And like, if it's not with you, then you want them to move on and be able to find it. So yeah, I think you're completely right. You're kind of giving them, or doing them, a bit of an injustice by keeping them in a position that that it's just not going to work. Um, Quite difficult to follow that advice. I reckon when you're first building a team, you kind of want to keep your people, right? I think you almost have to, no matter how many times people tell you to do it, I think you have to make that mistake yourself before you
Yeah.
then learn it to then do it.
And
Yeah,
then
I remember when.
what you find also is that even though you theoretically know this, you will get yourself into situations when the implications of letting somebody go, they're not only in a small company, it's not only that you just start hiring again. Very, very commonly, it kind of like falls on you, like all their responsibilities, which just fall on me. For example, if I would let go someone quite senior, so you're also making the strategic decisions. Is it better for me to stay with this person for longer, even though it's not working? Or is it better if I just take over the work, but then I know it will affect many other areas, for example, the strategic ones where I should spend attention to? So it's always not so straightforward, even that yes, I know, like everybody like knows that you should let go people quickly, but then what's good for the company right now is also difficult to decide.
That's a hard decision. That's quite a tough decision to make if you have to choose between those two things. Um, yeah, fair enough. No, that makes sense. I hadn't thought of that side of it before, to be honest, but that makes a lot of sense. Which side do you choose? Do you just have to pick one, and that's quite difficult, though, right?
Yeah, it's always a balance. So I I think from I usually tend to I think the more senior the person is, of course, there it gets complicated. So with junior people, it's not that much of an issue, but with the senior people, um, I learned through a few experiences that it's better to do it quicker. But yeah, there's not a straightforward answer. But for example, I for a long time didn't even look how a proper org chart should look for in different stages of the organization. So it afterwards helped me to look at different org charts and different variations. So splitting people in ways that I didn't think of, splitting teams in ways I didn't think of. So you're not the first one who's dealing with this issue, definitely, if you come into an issue like this. So if you do, sometimes you can get trapped into thinking that you have to figure it out, and then you forget that it's always good to like how somebody else try to solve the situation. And it's, I don't know, it's very common things like I don't know, you're missing a senior person, I don't know, in sales, and then looking how you can structure it regionally, or so yeah, all these questions somebody solved before.
Yeah, for sure. Where, as a CEO, again, I'm not sure if this is difficult question to answer or not. But as a CEO, where do you go to learn that? Because I guess people in the business look to you for the answers sometimes, right? And that kind of stuff. Like, do you have mentors that you've worked with in the past? Or like, do you go out and find mentors? Were you lucky enough, obviously, to work alongside, as you said, the founder who knows experience in doing this kind of stuff already? Have you got any advice there?
So different things. So it's in different stages. There are different things that help. So they're all like, obviously I'm listening to podcasts all the time. So you would have some kind of staples that everybody should listen to, like the hard thing about hard things and all these things. They're very useful for leaders and building startups. But then I also found advisors. So I have now advisors. So it's always good to look for an advisor from an, ideally, of course, from a company that you admire very much. So, for example, ex-employees from that company. So I was lucky to find someone from a big company, a payments company. So that's helping me so much, because also if you find someone from the companies that you from the industries and the companies that grew a lot, then they went through the same stages. So what's amazing is that even Stripe went through the same changes and the same evolution that we're going through right now as a payments company. So it's great to find someone from these big payments companies and learn from them. And it does help me so much through many transitions that we had to make in the business.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. I think that's super important. I think that's really important at all levels, to be honest. Not just when you're in a leadership position where you can find advisors and you have that ability to kind of bring them on board. But I even think if you're at the start of your career, you look for someone who's maybe a level or two uh, above where you are. Like I'd say a level or two above, but you know what I mean in terms of like job or experience wise. Um, just like ask them their opinion, like how did they get there, like advice they can share, and then maybe later on in your journey you find someone else who's in maybe another position that you are only a couple of steps away from, that kind of thing. I think it's something that more people should do, but not many people do, really. But I think it can make a huge difference.
Definitely. And then I would always focus on choosing the right advisor or mentor from the industries, like relevant industries, because I think that's so important. Because even though there might be someone amazing whom you admire, I don't know, from I don't know, Facebook or whatever, it will probably not be, their experience will be quite different from when scaling the company than it would be from either crypto company or a payments company. So for example, for our experience, payments are even more relevant sometimes than crypto, because at the end of the day we're a payment rail. Even though it's a crypto payment rail, it's a payment rail, and we're targeting the same customers the payments companies are targeting. um, so just being very mindful what it is that you need from those advisors, whether, but then also it's also about what you're looking for. You could be looking for just some purely leadership lessons, so that's another thing. But for example, for me, the industry insights were always crucial.
Yeah, that's good advice. That's a good thing for people to understand, for sure. Um, well, Anna, over the last 40 minutes or so, you shared a lot with us. I think you've given us a deep dive into stables. You've talked us through your journey, shared some great advice. Knowing what you know now about technology, about crypto, about stablecoins, leadership, uh, are there any closing words you'd like to leave us with? Any final pieces of advice for people out there?
I would just generally say it's such a great time to be alive in terms of technology. So I think one lifetime is not enough to explore all the things that now you can get into, whether it's AI, longevity, or crypto. So I think we're just extremely lucky when it comes to technology and all the things that we can do right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Well, Anna, thank you very much for taking the time to have a conversation today. If people are listening, they want to find out more about you, about Confirmo, where can they go? Is it better on the direct company website? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Twitter? Where do you guys live?
So we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn. So you can easily contact us there. As I mentioned, we're hiring, so you can look at the positions we have opened as well.
Sounds great. Well, Anna, thanks again. Appreciate you taking the time. Really enjoyed the chat, and I'll hopefully catch up with you soon.
Thank you so much, Jack.